This video is to explain how to successfully answer a 90-word question at the GCSE French exam, a foundation level. Even if you're doing higher, there's some good advice in this video that you may wish to follow. So a 90-word question on a foundation level, it is the last question on the writing. It is the big writing question of your French GCSE, and there are some essentials, things that you must do in order to give yourself the best opportunity of being successful. You need to keep the writing relevant to the topic. So if the topic is school, you need to make sure that your writing is relevant and is about school. If the topic is holidays, you need to keep the writing relevant on the topic of holidays. Don't start talking about school in that particular writing because it isn't what the examiners asked you to do. You need to respond to each of the 4 bullet points given to you in the question. In fact, I would go as far to say as you need to be ticking them off in your question paper to show yourself that you have managed to answer them. That being said, you don't have to be equal in talking about each of the bullet points. One bullet point, for example, might only have one short sentence about it, and the other 3 might have a lot more. That's completely fine, but you must respond to each of the bullet points. You must include that information in your writing. You need to write approximately 90 words. That means 85 words, as long as you've covered the bullet points, would be absolutely fine, as would 100 words if you'd written slightly more. You must refer to the past, the present, and the future in your 90-word question. That means more than likely your verbs need to be correct and need to be in the 3 different tenses. You need to give at least 2 opinions and include 2 justifications or 2 reasons. For example, you can't just say, I like food. You need to say why you like food. I like food because I eat a lot and I do athletics twice a week. Give a reason for why you think that way. You must include a range of language, connectives, words that make your sentences a little bit longer, that join 2 ideas together, 2 clauses together, intensifiers, so that you're evaluating how much on your opinions and your reasons, time phrases, how often do you do things, when do those things occur, and a range of adjectives when you're giving opinions or when you're describing things, not just saying it's the same thing. Don't use génial, great, all the time. Not everything in the world is great. Not everything you write about is great, or you don't want to say everything is great, so make sure there's a range. And finally, you must avoid repetition. If you're finding you're writing j'aime, et j'aime, et j'aime, et j'aime all the time in your writing, it's very unlikely that it's going to be relevant, and it's very unlikely that it's going to be responding to each of the 4 bullet points. Plus, an examiner wants to give you credit for using and showing you can use a range of language in French, so therefore using j'aime all the time doesn't necessarily meet that criteria. If you want to give another positive opinion, you might want to say j'adore or je me passionne pour. Use something original, something different. Try to avoid repetition where you can. So if we've got a question and we've got to keep relevant to the topic and respond to the 4 bullet points, what does that actually mean when we see a question in front of us? Straight away, when we get a question, before we look at the bullet points, we should be able to work out the topic. So here we've got, vous décrivez vos vacances pour votre blog. Straight away, we should be able to see vos vacances and say and tell that the topic is holidays. That's even before we've looked at the bullet points. If there was an issue when we looked at that word and we thought, oh, I don't recognize the topic, or just it's not really obvious to me, then the bullet points may be able to give you a clue towards the topic. Where do they all kind of join together? What information, what big theme are they all covering? So let's look at the bullet points now. Imagine number 1, où vous allez en vacances normalement? Well, really, that's asking you where you go normally. And one big thing about the bullet points in a 90-word question is it kind of indicates what time frame or what tense you should be talking in when answering that particular bullet point. And if we take that hint, it makes it much easier for us to talk about the past, the present, and the future as required. So, où vous allez en vacances normalement, where you go normally. Où vous êtes resté l'année dernière, where you stayed last year. You see l'année dernière, you see a past participle with E and an accent, you know you're referring to the past, where you stayed last year. Les activités que vous aimez faire. Well, straight away there's a cognate there, activité. The activities that you like to do. Here, it's asking for opinions. It's not your activities that you like to do at the weekend with your friends. Remember, it falls under the topic of holidays, so activities you like to do on holidays. Votre préférence pour un voyage à l'avenir. The exam board's been really sneaky here because what they've done is they've used a synonym for holidays. So instead of saying vacances, they've used un voyage. Un voyage is a trip. Don't be caught out and think it's talking about a voyage, a sailing voyage, because it looks like that in English. Look at the things like l'avenir, which means the future, and remember that the topic's holidays, so where you want to go next year, or where you want to go in the future. So if we follow the bullet points in their condensed forms, the first bullet point, we've got to talk about where we go normally in the present, where you stayed last year in the past, what activities you like to do, so giving your opinions, and where you want to go next year, so the future, referring to the future. A big tip here is when you start writing your answers to use a little bit of the language from the bullet points to mark for the examiner, yes, I've seen that bullet point and I'm definitely answering information about it. It's a real big tip for keeping things relevant. So you might want to start your first answer, for example, normalement. It appears here in the question, and then you might want to say, normally I go to. Straight away, the examiner can make a link and go, yeah, that student is answering this particular information that's been required. My second tip, before we start writing, is the order of the bullet points. Where possible, respect the order of the bullet points. It makes it much easier for an examiner to see that you've included all the information that you've been asked to do. So here, don't jump, for example, from where you go on holiday normally to then next year, to then what you like to do, to then last year. Let's keep it in the order 1, 2, 3, 4, so that an examiner can easily follow all the information that we've included. So let's have a look at an example. So the first bullet point, where you go normally, we should be expecting to see some present tense. Normalement, je vais en Espagne avec ma famille parce que j'adore le soleil et ma mère adore bronzer à la plage. So we've straight away used one of the words from the question, from the bullet point, and we've used the present tense, the two things that we said we needed to do when answering this bullet point. Normally, I go to Spain with my family because I love the sun and my mum loves to sunbathe on the beach. Hopefully, you'll think that's actually quite short. Well, that's 20 of your 90 words already in that particular sentence. It's helped to be a good sentence because we've used connectives and time phrases, we've said who we're doing things with, and we've given opinions of other people. So it's only 20 words, but we've already hit a lot of good writing criteria. The second bullet point, où vous êtes resté l'année dernière, where you stayed last year. Should we talk about where we're staying, and we should be using the past tense. L'année dernière, j'ai passé 2 semaines en France et j'ai logé dans un hôtel avec une grande piscine où nous avons nagé tous les jours. C'était très relaxant. Again, it's not too long a passage, slightly longer than what we had before. We've added an extra little bit of information. Last year, I spent 2 weeks in France and I stayed in a hotel with a big pool where we swam every day. It was very relaxing. You can see we've got l'année dernière from the question, and we've got past tense. J'ai passé, j'ai logé, c'était, nous avons nagé. Third bullet point, les activités que vous aimez faire. What activities you like to do. So we should have lots of opinion phrases in here. En Espagne, Je me passionne pour manger parce que la cuisine est vraiment délicieuse. Aussi, j'aime faire du jet ski avec mon frère. Cependant, ma sœur n'aime pas la mer du tout. In Spain, I am passionate about eating because the food is really delicious. Also, I like going jet skiing with my brother. However, my sister doesn't like the sea at all. Lots of activities, lots of different opinion phrases, some positive, some negative that we've included in this particular paragraph. Again, it doesn't look like it's too much writing. Again, 2 or 3 sentences on that particular bullet point. And finally, votre préférence pour un voyage à l'avenir. So we're talking about next year. We should be using the future. À l'avenir, je voudrais aller aux États-Unis avec mes amis parce que je pense que New York sera passionnant, sera très passionnant. In the future, I would like to go to the USA with my friends because I think that New York will be very exciting. We've used à l'avenir from the question to indicate to the examiner we're answering on the thing you've asked, and we're referring to the future. I would like to go and will be. Hopefully you look at that and you see a lot of language that you've used before in class or that you could reuse from this example in order to put together your own 90-word question. Let's look at it against a criteria. Let's look at it against things that we know are good to include in a successful 90-word writing. So here is our answer. It looks a bit more, doesn't it, when we're seeing it all together? But each bullet point, I hope we look at and think it's not too much, it's not overwhelming for us to write. There's a criteria on the right-hand side of good things that we should include in any 90-word writing we do, regardless of the topic. We should refer to the present, we should refer to the future and the past. We should give 2 opinions with 2 reasons. We should use connectives and intensifiers. We should talk about others. Now there's 2 ways to look at that. Others, as in with somebody, or others doing the action. We should talk about time phrase and frequency, how often things happen, when things happen. And we should also use vocabulary that is specific to that particular topic. So this topic, holidays. So let's have a breakdown again by paragraph of what language we've included and how it meets to the criteria. Hopefully you will see the language in the paragraph change colour, and that can show you what part of the criteria it's meeting. So let's start. We knew it had to be about the present tense. Je vais en Espagne, present tense. I go to Spain. J'adore le soleil. That's one of our 2 opinions. Ma mère adore bronzer. My mum loves sunbathing. Well, that's an opinion, but it's also higher level than that. It's mentioning what somebody else likes to do. Normalement is a time phrase. We've got 3 items of topic-specific vocabulary: in Spain, the sun, and on the beach. We've got some connectives: with, to add in a person, and also reasons. Reasons are introduced by a connective: parce que, because I love the sun. In the second paragraph, we expected to see some past, and here are 3 examples. J'ai passé, j'ai logé, nous avons nagé. That last example, nous avons nagé, actually mentions somebody else doing the action. So I spent, I stayed, and we swam. You also have a past reason, c'était, it was very relaxing. We've got a few more frequency and time phrases in here. L'année dernière, last year. 2 semaines, 2 weeks. Tous les jours, every day. We have topic-specific vocabulary: in France, in a hotel, with a big pool. We have an intensifier, très, meaning very. And we have one of the most underutilized, not often used connectives, où. Où, meaning where, is a really good connective to use to show a higher level if you can. Where we did this, where I like to do that. Try and use where as a connective when possible. In the third paragraph, you should have lots of opinions, the things that you like to do. They're here in pink. Je me passionne pour, j'aime faire du jet ski. You also have an opinion for somebody else in the negative. My sister does not like to, or does not like. We've got a reason. Parce que la cuisine est vraiment délicieuse. Because food is really delicious. We've got a range of connectives, also, with, however, and some topic-specific vocabulary. La mer, the sea. Then in the last paragraph, we expected to see the future tense, and we can see it here. Je voudrais aller, I would like to go, and sera, will be, it will be. We have a reason, parce que je pense que New York, but that reason is also an opinion, because I think that New York will be. Well, it's a reason why you want to go to America, but it's also an opinion because you're saying what you think. We've got a time phrase, à l'avenir, in the future, and you've got another intensifier in très. And of course, aux États-Unis, specific to the topic, meaning America. Hopefully, if you look at this criteria, what we've included in our good answer at 90 words, and then you look at the examples that fit those, there's nothing in this column here that you won't recognize, or that you haven't seen before, or that you couldn't reuse in your own 90-word question. Most of the answer was built up of these phrases, and I think these phrases, you guys know them and have used them and could use them again on a potentially a different topic, maybe just changing your topic-specific vocabulary, as would be required. So you've listened to my advice and you've looked at the example. You've made some notes about the phrases and how they meet the criteria. Why don't you try and write your own original response to this 90-word question? You can go back, you can look at our table, but try and include a relevant answer on holidays that refers to these 4 bullet points meeting this criteria. That was my guide on how to write successfully a 90-word question in Foundation. Thank you for watching.